So, you are mildly curious about how to run 4-2 for other categories that include 4-2, because let's be real, it would take a goddamn miracle for someone to actually start running this stage. If that's the case, this video should help you with that. 4-2 is typically a big choke point for people when it comes to longer categories and can cause a lot of time loss, especially due to how unforgiving messing up on this stage is. Nevertheless, I'm here not only to teach you how to run the stage, but also how you can save time compared to other people's methods. As the resident 4-2 addict with nearly 300 hours in this one stage, I will assure you that if you aren't able to take anything else away from this video, you will at least see how f***ing insane I am for this stage. This video will be broken down into 3 sections, with the first being the basics on how to run the stage, second talking more in depth about the skull grabs specifically, with harder but faster methods, and the third being general tips and tricks and category specific strategies. The basics. This section will break down step by step what you need to do to run this entire stage from start to finish. First, what you'll want to do is ground slam store on the side of the exit. Doing this is pretty simple. While up against a wall in the air, click ground slam, then jump right after before hitting the ground. You'll want to press jump and then slide shortly after. Pressing slide before jump will send you straight forward, and slide too late after jump will send you straight up. After that, you want to aim towards the center of the building, or like around these stairs, and do an ultra boost. You can do this by dashing, shooting a core out, then turning around and shooting that core with the malicious rail cannon, in that order. Once you're heading towards the building, you need to break the glass above the location of the blue skull. This can be done in a myriad of ways, so just pick your favorite. I used to use the slab marksman for its increased monetary value of the ultra coin due to its weight in gold. Now that you've landed, you need to head over to the blue skull lineup. There are a couple, so I'll just show them on screen now. After you get to your location, you need to aim around where the blue skull is typically when loaded in. You can tell this by seeing a slightly darker section and then aiming in the center of it. You then need to hold forward and grapple at the same time, or slide and grapple at the same time. This varies between which position you're using, so you'll need to know which one uses which method. If you end up missing the skull, one thing to help you adjust for future runs, or just attempting it again in the same run, is looking at how you missed. If there are sparks when you miss, that means you were too far forward when grappling. If there are no sparks, that means you were too far behind. You can also tell by a subtle sound cue difference, but that takes an obsessive level of dedication to be able to tell the difference, which is why I can. After you grab the skull, you want to jump up and hold grapple towards the blue pedestal. Holding grapple actually sends your hook farther, a fact a shocking amount of people don't know, but is very useful to know. After that, you want to head over to this pillar on the red skull side. Now, doing this will kill part of my soul, but we'll get into that more later. For now, after you get to this pillar, you will need to aim at the center of this dark pixel. You need to make sure you are generally in the center of it. To help with this, you can hold down weapon wheel, Q by default, and slow the game down, but this does bleed time. After that, you just need to aim where the red skull is and hold W and grapple at the same time. I far too often see people getting way too precise with their aim for some reason, losing a ton of time. This isn't the goddamn creation of Adam, this is 4-2. So just send the grapple and get it over with. Once you've gotten the skull, you want to head under the stairs, get the double gun power, and head towards the boss spawn, usually with a sliding core eject. Then you want to place the skull with your hook. Once the boss starts spawning, don't panic. For this kill, you want to send out 2 magnets, shoot out all your saws in the alternate blue nail gun, then switch to the green alternate nail gun, use its secondary, then switch to the red nail gun, alternate or not, it doesn't matter, and use its conduction to basically insta-kill the boss. If you want to kill the insurrectionist even faster, you can add in an SRS cannibal parry to do even more damage. After that, just get through the exit through the multitude of methods, and then you're done. Advanced grabs. I'm gonna be honest, I doubt anyone will actually go through learning anything beyond this point, and thus, I'm going to speed up a little bit. First, let's talk about skull grabs themselves. The blue skulls and pillar lineup for red skulls are by far the easiest and most common. As mentioned before, if you miss a skull grab with no sparks, you are too far ahead, and missing without sparks means you are too far behind. But to better understand why that is, we need to talk about load zones. ULTRAKILL loads everything in a load zone system. This means that until this load zone is activated, some things won't be loaded in. These can range from enemy spawns and stage exits to entire sections of the map. This can be done to help with lag, prevent finishing stages in unintended ways, or just make sure enemies are only spawned in at specific points. Think of load zones like invisible tripwires, where when touched by the player, they trigger whatever that load zone is set to activate. The only thing that triggers load zones is the player itself, so rockets, bullets, explosions, and even the whiplash don't trigger it. For 4.2, the main load zones that matter are the ones for the red skull and blue skull. Normally, when not loaded in, the sections of the map where the skulls lay are still there, but the level of detail is lowered as to prevent lag, which means the skulls aren't loaded in. This means that we are able to interact with the unloaded section of the map without triggering the load zone. This is actually how the skull skip works, as you trigger the load zone, loading in the rest of that section of the map, when your grapple hook is inside the glass container holding the skull. With that being said, you can also probably see why simply, quote, being too far behind or too far ahead might not always explain misses. Being at an angle slightly different than another run may mean that when sliding forward or walking, you may reach the load zone sooner or later than other attempts. Unfortunately, the best way to get the most consistent at this is just to experiment and practice, which leads me into my next point. The pillar lineup that everybody uses is consistent, but pretty slow, while the method that I use is less consistent, but definitely faster. This method is called the Theo drop, named after its first user, Theodore Roosevelt, back in 1919 on January 5th, this being the last noteworthy thing he did before his death a day later. If you want to use this method, you're going to need to go to the center of the building all the way on the edge, line up your crosshair with where the red skull is going to be, and slide off the building. Once you're falling, wait for the yellow particles to start rising. That's when you want to send out your hook. The timing on this can be pretty difficult, so if you need to use the weapon selector to slow down your game, you can. But, of course, this loses time. There is one more method you can use to grab the red skull without using the pedestal. This method was brought to my attention by Quirtert. How it works is you stand on the brown bracing, aim down at this circle on the texture, then aim towards where the red skull is going to be. Then at the same time, hold slide and tap grapple. Then, once the cooldown for the grapple hook has ended, hold grapple again, and this timing should allow you to grab the red skull. Tips and category-specific strategies. I'm going to start with tips, as the odds of someone running 4.2 is astronomically low. If you're still having trouble with the blue skull grab, try making sure that you're using the right movement for whichever lineup you're doing, as in walking or sliding, since the lineup won't work if you're using the wrong one. If you're having trouble aiming, make sure that you're aiming where the skull is going to be, and not at the base of the black box. If you're still having troubles trying to get the skull, try switching lineups. For the kill, if you want the fastest possible time, you should make sure your saw is from a figure 8 around the boss. Doing just one circle is easier, but is ever so slightly slower due to less saws being able to hit the boss at once. In categories where you are unharmless, for example, greed, lie, or any percent, you have extra HP. This allows you to use your core eject to move between the blue and red skull faster. The current fastest method for 4.2 any percent is slightly different from any of the methods I've shown so far. While no one is going to actually run this, if you're lying in bed at 3 AM watching this, it might be mildly interesting due to the sleep deprivation. So the pathing is as follows. Slam store off the inside walls and dive towards the red skull. UB, then coming close to the skull, aim at the top right corner of the skull pedestal and grapple. Then quickly rocket ride, pull up, and place the red skull at the same time. Ride the rocket over the top into the blue skull. You can either use the rocket to break the glass or a weapon. Grab the blue skull, slide in core eject, and place the skull. The magnets and saws are like usual. Line up to where the boss's right knee will be, then fast coin 3 coins, dead coin them into 1, whip it up 1 time, then in quick succession, blue slab piercer, blue rail cannon, and red nail gun conductor. Then slam store off the opening door, put oil, and you're done. Holy shit! Thank you to Silly Pilly for the original task for 4.2. Thank you to Hootie for proving that the task grab is humanly possible. And thank you to I don't know how to say that. Thank you to On Screen for coming up with the boss kill. If you have any further questions or need clarification for anything, leave a comment or ask in the Speedrun channel in the Discord of either New Blood or ULTRAKILL. If this was helpful in any way, don't bother leaving a like and instead send me a clip of you doing the I would get way more gratification out of that than some digital number increasing by 1. Thanks for watching.